working with advanced tech features in InDesign. So text features being positioning text on a path and converting text to outlines. So let's go ahead and look at those two items. I am going to first start by creating a path in which to place text on. So I'm using my ellipse tool, holding down Shift to drag a circle. I will also use my pen tool. I'm going to click and drag because I'm creating a curved path here. All right. Now remember what we looked at earlier. What has happened here? I actually have a starting graphic on this stroke. I can go to my stroke menu and see that is what has happened. You can leave it if you want. It's kind of an interesting effect. So now text on a path basically allows us to position text on the outline of an object. And I have both a closed circle and an open shape here. You can do this to any type of path that you have. So the tool I am going to use is under the Type tool. It's called Type on a Path. So if I click the Type on a Path tool, my cursor looks a little bit different. I have that insertion point with the little swoosh going through it. So I'm going to float this over top of my path, and you'll see a plus sign appears beside the pointer. When you see that, go ahead and click. Now you'll lose the attributes to this shape, but it allows me now to type. So here we go. Now, if this is not in the right direction, which it probably isn't, I'm able to move this around. So if I use my selection tool, remember, I get to move my whole thing. And you can see that I do have some indicators here, which I can change with my selection, or I can go to my direct selection tool. So I have basically what's called a start bracket, an end bracket, and you can watch your cursor, it gives you a tip on that. Then I also have a center bracket, which I don't see at the moment, so it's always a good rule of thumb. And I can go back to my Type on a Path tool. I'm going to set my alignment up here at the top to centered. Okay, so now when I go back to my direct selection tool, you'll see there's kind of a centered bar here, and I like to use that one to drag. It just seems a little bit easier to get that thing moving. Now this is like my margins. This is the start and the end, so I can shrink those. Be careful though, because if you do shrink it too far, or what I just did, copied that text. So you have to watch your cursor. When I have this little icon, you can see that I'm moving it. And basically now what I did is I moved so that my margin area is only in this small space. I get the plus, the overset text icon. So you got to be careful. And now I clicked to thread my text. You have to watch those little icons and what they are doing. So I would suggest not really messing around with this start and end bracket, but instead looking at this little centered. Okay, so same thing, I can go over here. There's my little plus sign. I click and I can enter text on any path in InDesign. Pretty simple. Now, what if I start using some really interesting fonts? Okay, the thing you have to always be aware of is that if I send a file with some crazy font to somebody, they might not have that font. And what might happen is then they get a missing font error. So if I type something in here, say really large, and we use something that maybe not everybody has, maybe we want to choose Jungle Fever. Oops. So I might send this to somebody, they don't have it. The way to solve that is to create outlines. So when it's selected, basically I go under the Type menu and I'm going to choose Create Outlines. Now use your selection tool to select your text. This is typically only done on larger text, so things like headlines or logos. You're not going to do it for a body copy of text because it will increase those individual letter forms slightly and make it look a little bulky. Once I've done this, my text is no longer editable. Okay, so now they are objects, and they'll start off being grouped, so I can ungroup them if I'd like, and I can do all kinds of fun things in the transformations. I can do whatever I want with them. Now, when I can stretch them, you can do all kinds of fun stuff. Now, you could actually put something into this. While this is selected, it's acting as though it's a frame, so I can do a file and I can do a place, and maybe I want to go back to my little zoo guy here. And you see, let's use our direct selection tool so we can move this around. Here is my picture. Now the quality is pretty crummy in the background. There's my guy right there. So quality isn't so good, but I can, of course, change my preview. Remember, that's that display performance here. If I increase this to a high quality, there we go. We got a crisp, clean picture, and it's inside of my text. So those are fun things I can do. So that was by doing a file and a place. You can also do a copy and then do an edit and do a paste into. The paste into will do that same exact thing, paste it into an area. So fun things that you can do with the outline text. So two things, the text on a path and the converting text to outlines.